Hello, fellow armchair generals. My name is Tom, and I'm back with my Japanese campaign in Hearts of Iron 3 using the Black Ice modification version 10.43. Where we left off, and I just saved just to make sure that we have a good working save here so the game doesn't crash on me next time I try to save. But what we have here is the beginnings of war with China here in the next couple of months. As such, I moved my standing army that was over in Japan to the main front, kind of shifting, as you can see, shifting forces around. I like to keep my faster units here to be able to push into the west very rapidly. And then I have my main military forces up here on a line. Marines will be here. As you can see, they have them all set up, waiting to begin their invasions as well. We'll be kicking that off, I believe, on July 1st. I think historically it was around July 4th or 7th, something like that. But I believe the event decision will come about on July 1st for us. I went ahead and set up the my military leaders for all my units. As you can see, pretty much everybody here has got units associated to them. This guy does not because he is an expeditionary force. The choice. Well, actually, I can. Can I choose a leader? No, won't let me choose a leader there. Let's say normally it's like grayed out. Won't let me actually select it. But yeah, this group here, just a bunch of extra troops that I'm going to use to help in my initial push to the west. But then I'll have them set up around in northern China, and as I push further in, just to have them take out any rebels that appear behind our lines. I believe I'll be getting even more as time goes on. Um, well, I had set up pretty much all of my leaders. Yeah, it looks like I have set up all my leaders everywhere they need to be. I still need to set up my actual unit hierarchy. I have a bunch, as we saw there, I have a bunch of units that are just free. They're not actually attached to anybody. Currently, I'm moving people around. I'd like to start off with groups of 5 in each of these provinces here. That's about 30 different units that'll be arrayed around here, and I'll have a core headquarter unit associated with each of the 5. And then from there, of course, I'll have 5 core headquarter units associated with a 4-star general headquarter unit that I'll need to create in order to handle that kind of capacity. Otherwise, I'll have just a bunch of units associated with Tojo here probably, and thus eventually the Kwangtung Theater. Then I have a bunch of other units that are going to be arrayed along this line here, mainly my cavalry and specialized light infantry. They'll all be arrayed along here to be able to begin their push to the west. I moved all my air units, or they're in the process of moving at this point in time. Bombers and are set up as well to begin their campaign. When you do set up your leaders, you do lose some organization, and I think with air units, once you move them, rebase them to a new base, they also lose some organization. So we're going to war in the next 2 months. I want to make sure that I've got everybody set up with the leaders they need to have, and also the air units moved to where they need to be at, so they can regain their org here fairly rapidly. On that note, I do have some points sent to reinforcement, and I think I need to kind of jump that up a bit. So for the next 2 months, I'm not lagging too hard there. Consumer goods needs a little bit of a boost there. I like to see it being in the green. When it's red, I don't like that at all. Speaking of green and red, we're pretty much green across the board. Energy, we are not. I think no, we don't have any trades going out. It's just we're just using a lot because we have a lot more IC than previous. When we first started, it was around 150, I think, or 140. We've gained some IC since then because of laws and other decisions made. Speaking of our production queue here, we've got some things being built that aren't going to be coming until the later part of the year here. I do have seven more specialized light infantry coming. These 3 army units are just basically going to help fully staff out the army units that I have over in China right now, make them a little bit stronger, so that way they can withstand their own. And this marine unit is for my leader that I created, which is here. I want to make him a marine unit, so he it'll be a little bit stronger here coming shortly. Overall, though, I think we're pretty much ready. I'm waiting for my units to kind of settle down here, over this month, and then I'll arrange them in their hierarchy. One of the first things I do need to start setting up, though, is my naval units. I want to show everybody how I go about doing that. As Japan's a major naval power here in the Pacific, there's going to be a lot of ships. We can see already here, there's about 130 ships in my main battle wagon fleet. And then in my carrier fleet, I got about 2 dozen there. I need to kind of break these up, though, and appropriately assign them to where they need to be eventually as well. Got a bunch of subs kind of waiting as well. I'll be using some of these, most of the coastal subs I'll be using in the coming war with China. I got some torpedo boats that are pretty much just going to hang out, not do much here. I did see that leader was red, which meant that he was commanding too many ships. So I went ahead and promoted him to where he can command the sufficient amount, so he won't receive a penalty any further. All my passenger ships have their leaders assigned, and I think I had a motor torpedo boat there. Alrighty, so starting with our naval units, we'll get it going with my carrier units. What I like to do with my carriers, I have two different types of carrier fleets I like to use. Since Japanese invested in regular CVs, regular carriers, and CVLs, light carriers, I like to create fleets based on that kind of property, and I try to make sure they're not any larger than 7 ships. And this is my own personal preference. There may be better ways more efficient ways to set up the fleets. But since I'll be building a lot of carriers, I kind of want to have as many individual carrier fleets as I can get, so that way I can utilize them in different theaters, different areas. So I try to keep them kind of small, but also kind of big, just about right, as I would say, as for Goldilocks, if you will. So we have 2 regular carriers that I have set up there, and then I'll go ahead and assign the appropriate amount of light carriers or light cruisers to them, rather, to help support them. So that we now are up to 7. This guy, yeah, I'm not quite fond of him there. We want somebody that's pretty good. Because as far as I'm concerned, my carrier fleets are going to be the best in the Pacific here. So I want to make sure they have a leader that's appropriate for that. This guy here, yeah, I think he will do quite well. Better than somebody that's got old guard. That's not going to help too much here, other than maybe say an experience bonus. Um, yeah, those type of stats aren't really going to be terribly helpful overall. So we want somebody that will give me a little bit more oomph. So we'll go ahead and set him up there. As you see, I assigned the leader, and immediately the organization went down. And again, I try to complete all this type of stuff about a couple months before war ever starts with the country that I'm at. Germany, for example, since war starts September 1st, 1939, I'll start all this roughly around June. Setting up the leaders for each of the units, getting the unit hierarchy down, moving air units around, and things of that kind of nature. So we have our first carrier fleet set up there, and then we'll have our next light carrier fleet set up as well. With my light carriers, I like to put 3 light carriers in place there, and we actually have one that's being built currently at this point in time, the Zuyo, I believe. That's still many years away before we'll see it. But that's all right. I mean, we're only be fighting China at this point in time, so their navy, the biggest ship they have is a light cruiser, and I think they might just have a couple of those. Otherwise, they're mostly destroyers and torpedo boats, things like that. But usually, I get 3 light carriers in place there, and then 4 light cruisers to help staff them out. Main reason is with the regular carriers, they have 4 planes available to them. You can see here they got 4 CAGs available. With my light carriers, each light carrier can only carry 1 CAG on them. So if I put 3 in there, now they got 3 CAGs. Simple math, I know, but nonetheless, that's the way I like to staff them up here. So that way, the light carriers, which can be built pretty quickly compared to regular carriers, I put enough in there so that way a light carrier fleet cruising around is about as strong, nearly as strong as one of my regular carrier fleets. The other light carriers, I'm just going to let them sit there. Once I get more carriers coming in, I'll go ahead and throw the light carriers in this reserve to them. And if I lose any light cruisers for any reason, then I can pull them out of that reserve. Same thinking applies here with my main fleet. I'll be staffing this out into regular battle wagons. I'll have a bunch of destroyers left over, which I'll be creating some destroyer fleets, but I'll still have a bunch of destroyers left over. I like to use that excess as reinforcements for any that I do lose. And as such, let's go ahead and build my battle wagons here too. It used to be I would like to have 10 fleets total, a combination of battleships and or battle cruisers along with heavy cruisers and then destroyers. But somebody corrected me that heavy cruisers, and I guess because they're that darker blue compared to light blue, heavy cruisers are in the same sort of line, if you will, as battle cruisers and battleships. They are main ships of the fleet, and as such. I'd be putting about 3 battleships and or battle cruisers, 3 heavy cruisers, and then 4 destroyers in a battle wagon fleet to make 10 total. Like doing the math real quick, that meant that I had 6 ships of the fleet and only 4 flanking ships for them. So someone corrected me and said that you want to probably look at breaking out those heavy cruisers into their own fleets, perhaps, or kind of distributing a little bit better, so you have more destroyers in your battle wagons. And I can certainly agree with that. And I think going forward from here, I'm going to go ahead and keep my battle wagon fleets to about 7 as well, just because it's a little bit easier to handle. I have plenty of leaders, naval leaders that I can utilize and even give promotions to, so they can handle 10 fleets. But I think fleets of 7 for my battle wagon fleets will be sufficient as well. I will go ahead and try to maintain uh, equivalent speeds with ships here, because if I with your fleets, the slowest ship determines the speed of your fleet, which is why, like with the carriers and light carriers, I split those up because they have different speeds. Same with the battleships and battle cruisers. You can see my battle cruisers here; their speeds um, are just around 28 and a half. High in the Congo have, or just the high has 27 and a half there. The battleships go at 24. So if I combine my battle cruiser with a battleship, they're just going to be going at the speed of the battleship solely. Heavy cruisers, faster, 30. Actually, even the newer ones are much faster than that, 32 and a half. Destroyers running at about 36. I got some newer destroyers, they're 37. I mean, I got to assign destroyers to my battle wagon fleet, so that's they're going to be going as the slowest speed possible. But I think what I will end up doing here for my new battle wagon fleet for this campaign and going forward is separating them. I'll have some solely battleship wagon fleets, of course paired with destroyers, and then battle cruiser with destroyers, and then finally heavy cruisers with destroyers. Those, since these are a little bit weaker compared to their brethren, battlecruiser and battleship, um, these I'll probably utilize in kind of like tripwire roles, if you will. I'm not going to solely use them as the main force that's going to take out other fleets and things like that. Um, we'll see how that works for me as this campaign goes on. I may have to readjust my thinking on that. May even look at combining heavy cruisers and battleships just to see if that works a little more effectively. I do look at the level of each of my ships here and try to make sure that I keep equivalent, because I don't want to mix and match too much here. So since we'll be having 7 ships in here, I need to put a total of 4 destroyers in there and make them all level 5, so that way they're all equivalent there. Um, yeah, even though he's an old guard, I will just leave him as is there. That's fine. So continuing on staffing out the rest of my battle wagons here. We got 3 more battleships that I'll go ahead and set up. Do we have any more level 5 destroyers? We should. These are the newer destroyers. I want to make sure that I put them in appropriately there. Good. Now we're down to battle cruisers here. I think the high I said was about Yeah, 1 kph slower. We have 4 battle cruisers, and the rest are heavy cruisers. How many of those have we got here? Enough to make quite a few fleets here. So this new, I'm used to making my battle wagon fleets 10 ships total. So this new setup here is going to be quite a bit of a different thing for me. But I think it'll work out. We'll see how it all operates. There we go. I'm only putting 2 battle cruisers in here and the staff the rest with destroyers. Yeah, I will have some more battleships, battle cruisers coming along and super heavy battleships. The Musashi and the Yamato are going to be coming as well. So I'll probably staff them out the same way as well. Like, for example, the Musashi and Yamato I'll put in with a bunch of destroyers and send them out to be their own fleet. But it looks like we're doing good there. See, we have a lot of ships to go through here. I will have a bunch of destroyer fleets going out. I like to use those as tripwire defenses as well. If they get engaged with a fleet, it'll alert me in the box up here, let me know there's a fleet action. With enough of those destroyers floating around here in the Pacific, it'll, even if the destroyer fleet doesn't succeed in their assault there, in their attack, at the very least it'll show me where that battle is, and I can vector in nearby units to help take that the enemy fleet out. Okay, and I think now we're at heavy cruisers. So we got some level 5 heavy cruisers there, which I will use. How fast are they? 32.6. Speedy little suckers. I think I still have some level 5 destroyers. Yes. They're also speedy little suckers. Not enough of them, though, remaining. Oh, there's a couple, actually. Good. There we go. Yeah, already I'm kind of liking this setup here. It's a little bit different than I'm used to. Yeah, let's see. 4. See how many heavy cruisers I have remaining. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I could make 4 more fleets and put 3 heavy cruisers in each. And then 4 destroyers. Yeah, I think I'll do that. So 3 of the heavy cruisers. And then we'll staff them with destroyers. Again, making sure that I have leaders promoted so they can handle at least 7 ships total, because I don't want to suffer any negatives here. Okay. Now there's one more remaining level 5 destroyer, which I'll throw in there. Okay. And if anybody has any comments on, like, what I'm doing here, if you feel that there's a better way to set up ships, stuff like that, I do also kind of, I don't like to min max a lot. I'm not really into that. I know there's better ways to be setting up fleets and armies and things of that kind of nature. I do kind of role play a little bit as well too. Not that this is necessarily the way that Japan historically set up their fleets, but setting them up kind of this way and my way of thinking gets married into this method here. It just makes, for me, the game a little bit easier to grasp and handle. This is a very it is a very complex game, Hearts of Iron. Hearts of Iron 1, when that first was released, that was a doozy for me when I first started playing it, then eventually got used to it. Hearts of Iron 3 here is many levels more complex than that first game here. So it's kind of what I do here, is just to make things a little bit easier for me in understanding how things go and whatnot. Alrighty, so we got all our main fleets, battle wagons set up here, and now I'm just gonna set up my destroyer fleets. Like I said, those will be all tripwires. I'm not gonna burn through all these destroyers. And honestly, I don't care what levels I have at this point here, just because they'll get upgraded before war starts with America. Um, but I will make sufficient here. I like to have about a dozen. Oops, I have too many. Here I am talking and not paying attention. I do like to have about a dozen or so straight out destroyer fleets that I'll spread out throughout the my Pacific Empire here. I like to throw a couple, actually to try to keep like a line, if you will, of destroyers that patrolling in like this area here. That usually takes about 3 or 4, maybe even 5, coming all the way down to here. And then the rest of the destroyers I just assign throughout these islands here, kind of act as like a shield, a tripwire shield, to let me know if anything's coming that way. To be quite honest, America doesn't at the start of the conflict with me here. They don't really go too far into Japan or anything like that, but I do like to kind of keep an eye on what's going on with any fleets that may be sailing around. Let's see, we'll be making a few more here. We got 45 destroyers left, and I would like to keep probably a good couple dozen in play just to make sure that they can be used as reinforcements when my main battle wagon fleets start taking losses, and losses they will take for sure. That guy is actually a little bit too good for a destroyer fleet here. Let's get something a little bit more his speed. There, we can go ahead and assign him. That's spotter. That's a very nice trait for a leader to have. Spotting a surprise chance, that works very well for just fleets in general. Um, yeah, and for overall destroyer leader, he's probably actually a bit better than than I would want. Alrighty, and I think that's about it for right now. Yeah, we don't have a dozen destroyer fleets at this point in time yet. Actually, I'm gonna make a couple more because I'll be building destroyers to create more destroyer fleets, but also to provide more reinforcements to my battle wagon fleets as they lose destroyers. Yeah, he is too good to to be setting up there. Why do you do this to me, game? Oh, there we go. At the start of the game, back in the very beginning of January 1936, I assigned all the leaders, and I clicked off auto assign. So when new units popped in, it went automatically select a leader and throw in place there. But now that I've selected leaders for everybody, I have auto assign turned on. So going forward, anytime a new unit gets created or built or appears on the board or anything like that, an appropriate leader will be assigned to them. There'll be some events that will actually pull leaders from my existing units throughout and apply it to that new leader, and that's fine. We'll deal with that when that time comes. But I try anytime I have to put a new leader in place because of that loss in organization. When you throw a leader in charge, new leader in charge, I will try to make sure that that unit doesn't get that new leader unless they're out of combat, unless they're resting and refitting. Alrighty, so we do have all of these guys created here. We got 2, 4, 6, 8 total destroyer fleets. Before war with America here, we'll have even more destroyers built. And in fact, you can see we've got at least 2 more destroyer fleets being built there and coming on. Got a bunch more heavy cruisers. Got a bunch of industry that need still waiting to get built, but that'll come. That'll come. I think that's it, except for subs. We need to set these up. My subs I like to set up in groups of 3. No real reason for that specifically, other than 3 is the maximum that a 1-star leader can take care of. So that's pretty handy. And you see each of these new leaders, they have the Seawolf trait applied there. So when you have that auto assign on, the game is pretty smart in regards to assigning appropriate leaders. In most cases, I mean, you saw I was assigning some of my best naval leaders to just simple destroyer picket forces. But I mean, it doesn't know. It doesn't know that's how I'm setting up. It just sees a fleet and tries to assign the best possible. We're going to assign more. here. Let's see. Again, breaking this all down to 3. And again, that's just mainly for the leader. I don't have to worry about promoting, but also 2, 3 is a good number. Anytime that a sub gets into conflict, um, it's a pretty decent enough number to hold their own against a smallish enemy force, say a couple of destroyers or torpedo boats. Any number of subs, unfortunately, against a large number of fleets isn't going to do too well. We have a midget submarine. Totally forgot about this guy. So, and unfortunately, yeah, I don't want to use this guy because he's a good leader. We'll just throw a simple guy there. Midget subs, I don't find any real use for them in all honesty. They have a short range. They're very slow, as you can see, 5 kph. Um, not that they're terribly slow compared to other subs, but nonetheless, they're pretty slow. I will go ahead and send it down to Taiwan here, where they'll just patrol back and forth here, hunting any convoys that may be coming along. I don't know. Some campaigns actually lose the midget sub. Other campaigns they don't actually do anything other than maybe sinking some convoys. That's all good though. Let's get the rest of these coastal subs set up here. I was trying to get the higher ranking together. Again, though, it doesn't quite matter. Once war starts with America, all my subs will be upgraded to the most recent version that's available. Right now, for this war in China, the way things go, it doesn't matter what their level is, what their upgrade level is, or anything like that. Okay. And you see we're going to have an odd number here pretty soon, or I say odd, it's even, 4 remaining. I'll just split this up into 2 groups of 2 and just leave it as that. So I have a bunch of subs here. The midget sub's going where he's going. I'm going to, in turn, send some subs. Oh, actually, they will go there. Those 2, I'll have one that'll cover these 3 provinces. The other one will cover these 3 provinces. Let's get these other 2 set up. Well, actually, yeah, here, where they're going to cover most of these provinces there. And those 2 sit down to the bottom here. They'll cover the Taiwanese Strait and those provinces there. And now I will take my, let's see, my other remaining 2. That guy needs to come over here as well. And then I'll take a couple of subs here, send them down to just here, and they'll cover these provinces here. So this way, once war starts with China, I will have the entire coast ringed and covered by subs. They'll just be cruising back and forth, hunting down any convoys that China may be sending out that they can sink. They're probably not going to be able to affect any convoys coming in because that'll be coming mostly from non-belligerent nations. The only nations I'll be at war with will be these Chinese countries here. So if America is shipping supplies, for example, to China for money, or vice versa, even well, no, yeah, if America say is buying supplies, so they're sending money to China and China's sending supplies, I won't be sinking that convoy. But if China is importing supplies, they'll be using their own convoy ships for that, and I'll be able to sink those. And now we need some of our big boys here to get ready for the battle. I won't need that many ships cruising around here. Let's start with my carriers. They will be going out because I will be utilizing them. We'll have the light carrier rebase up to here. Light carrier will be responsible for northern China here, and my regular carrier group, I'll just send them to Taiwan. They'll be responsible for the middle part here. I'll occasionally use their CAG, the carrier's CAG with any sort of, say, marine landings that might be happening along the coast. Will help support that. Have them kind of fly around and hunt down any of the Chinese interceptors or other air units that may be flying around. But otherwise, be using the carriers just to help hunt down any of the Chinese fleet. Typically, in my campaigns, I have the Chinese fleet pretty much sunk within the first year there. It's rare in 1937 if I see, or 1938 rather, if I see any Chinese ships out and about. We're not going to use any of our main battle wagons. I'll save some fuel, but I will go ahead and send some destroyers out and about here. We'll send one destroyer fleet there. I'll have these. They'll be patrolling an area of 3 provinces, sea provinces, so I won't need too many here. In fact, that's 1, that's 2, 3, and 4 destroyer fleets are really all I need to patrol the fleet, the seas, and the Chinese fleet. They're just going to help out with the carriers and their duties, as well as just making sure that the Chinese don't really sortie out too far and do too much. I'm going to also utilize some further destroyers here. I'm going to have one here that's going to basically patrol this area, and another one here that is going to set up here. That's going to end up patrolling this area. Historically, I've seen in my games that the Chinese like to attack land units around here in this area. That's fine. Any units they decide to utilize in that sort of manner means it's not units fighting in the mainland. So I like to use my fleets to kind of hunt them down and kill them before they can set foot on my territories. This is all I really have to worry about. The Chinese, I mean, I don't think they have the range to make it to any of my other islands. Thus, that's why they just attack around here. And I don't ever see them attack Taiwan. It's usually just these islands here. Okay, so we've got all that taken care of. Fleets are now being sent to where they need to go. I have a fighter bomber squadron here that. Do we have? Huh. Yeah, they need to rebase out there. I've got 2 naval bomber units. They have a flying boat each associated to them. They have a 1,200 kilometer range, so they can actually go quite far. Where they're stationed, that's fine. They can't quite make it out there or there. So actually, I might have one tasked to go here. That way, then they can come from here. I'm looking down the lower right corner of my screen. Once I have a province or a unit selected, I can then move my mouse cursor out, and it'll tell me what the range is from what I have selected to where I'm going. So this is pretty handy. If I have a unit selected, of course, it will tell me right there on the unit screen. As you can see here, that's its range, 1155. That one has 1210. Different. Ah, yes, this is all level 2 naval bombers. This has a level 1 naval bomber, so that has a bit of a shorter range. And that's good. This is actually the one that we'll be maintaining here. They can they can range 1155, and the Gulf of Chile. If you look in the lower right corner, it says its range there is 885. So from where they're at, they can reach all the provinces I need to get to. The Taipan Wang Mears Bay is as far as that particular unit can go. So that's why I sent the second unit there to Taiwan, so then they can cover these provinces here. And I'll have them just do a search once wars get started. I'll have them just patrol the provinces specifically, and I'll show how I set that up as well. So I have my naval fleets all distributed, and my air power distributed as well. I have a couple more fleets here. These are my coastal battleships. For the beginning of the game, I'm going to have them out here in the Gulf of Chile. They're just going to provide shore bombardment over here to Tianjin, and any naval fleets that may be here or trying to come into the Gulf, they'll be able to handle it pretty handily. The coastal battleships are decent. They're not good for end game or even mid game for that matter. But for against the war in China, they're excellent for what they do. They can take out the Chinese fleet, even their light cruisers. It'll be a tough battle, but they can still take them out. And they do exactly what their intention is, and that's to provide shore bombardment to the locations they need. Once I start doing some naval attacks with my Marines here along the coastal, then I'll go ahead and move one of the coastal battleships to that appropriate sea zone and provide shore bombardment for my Marines. My Army finally are moving around to where they need to be. I need to wait for them to kind of settle down and get to where they're going, so that way the leaders that I have can go ahead and scoop up the units that are on those provinces. But otherwise, we are all set at this point in time here. I'm going to advance it a little bit and save it since we've done a few things. And we're good there. Um, Speed the game up here to wait for my units to move where they're going. Seaport, good. We're going to go ahead. Normally, I would look at it, and with any research that I get and future research that's going to be happening, I try to make sure that I stay current year, unless it's a research category that I consider urgent. That's something that I really need. Mainly, that's going to be a couple of infantry research targets, artillery, because of a strategic effect that occurs if these aren't researched appropriately. CAG, I always make sure my CAG stays on top and ahead. Submarines, carriers, try to make sure those are pretty much staying ahead of the game here, 1 year ahead. In this case, Seaport, I don't consider it an urgent thing, but I just let these four infrastructural technologies keep rolling, because once they come up for me to go ahead and build them, and war has been engaged, then I'll go ahead and do so, and they provide me some pretty good benefits. So if I'm keeping ahead of the game on this, then that's good. The benefits they provide will be very handy down the road. So we'll let that just keep rolling here. I got a few trades here. At this point, since I'm all green everywhere, except for, say, fuel and supplies, which I can make more supplies, and fuel, I can make more fuel from crude oil. I'm not going to do any of these trades that say fuel is the option here. I am red in crude oil. That's because we are trading some away. And I see we're converting 81 into fuel. And that's because things are starting to move, and that's why. Yeah, I got air power that was moving around using fuel. My ships are beginning to move. My light carrier group has already begun to reach its destination. So we're converting a bunch of crude oil to fuel. This will settle down. It'll go back green here very shortly. So that's not a problem. We are ahead of the game in something here. Reinforcements. Okay, good. Again, war coming July 1st. I want to make sure now that I'm on top of my reinforcements. I don't start mobilization at all until war begins with Japan. I do the same thing with Germany. I don't worry about mobilizing until war starts with Poland. And that's because your initial enemy in both of those countries is so weak that over the course of a couple of weeks, your units will get built up, reinforced back up to full force with no problem once mobilization has been started. That really I don't need to worry about mobilizing too soon. We'll see some countries do their mobilization pretty quickly though. No decisions that I want to utilize. Again, railroad network decisions, the only one that I do build. The others, I just wait till war starts and I'll crank them all out at that time. Money for fuel, money for fuel, fuel, money for fuel, fuel. Again, just getting rid of all these here. Like carrier armor thickness, 1940. This is more than 1 year ahead. I will research my urgent techs for right now, 1938 or prior, but I won't research anything beyond 1938. So that one I'll go ahead and drop off. We're getting down there. Once I reach 35, that magic number here, then I go ahead and I'll go ahead and start researching some more things here that are appropriate for my needs in the conflict. But right now, I just let things ride as they are. I think my units are pretty much set where they need to be. You can see uh, Menjiang, my new puppet here that got formed very recently. They're starting to move forces down a little bit, get ready for the coming conflict as well. Um, well, they're actually just setting their units up against the border here of Shaanxi, but nonetheless, I can role play and say, "Hey, I told them to get ready. We got war coming." Alrighty, I think I've got all my units set up here that need to be where they're at. Um, those are not. I got 2, 4, 5 units, 6 units actually here. So we got 5 there. Okay. We'll just start assigning units here. I like to do it this way, have all the units set up appropriately for their future conflict. Like I say, I'm putting 5 in each. That way I can have all 5 set to a core headquarter unit, which is really all that you can set to a core headquarter unit. You can see more assigned to a core headquarter unit, but that's because of the AI either doing that or start of the game. It's quite possible that a unit got assigned ahead of time there. Alrighty, so we got all 5 there. I've got an extra unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got an extra unit here. Also got several leaders, so I need to see where these extra guys need to go. Okay, they're all set. And it just makes it easier if I click on each unit here, and I got a green arrow. I can select the top headquarter unit, and I know that they're already there. So he only has 2. Okay, we are going to send 1 army unit over there, so I'll make 3. And then these 2 guys are going to come down there, and that'll be 5. So we're good there. We're going to send him over to there because they don't have a core unit. And I think, well, I'll still need a leader type there. Do I have a guy here that has nobody? He does not. So I'm going to send him over there, and he will be in charge of all these speedier units. Okay. And he's all set. That's my militia. They're basically just a defensive force right here. They'll be defending across a river. They'll actually help out in any battle in this province here. But for right now, they're just going to kind of sit there and act as a blocker to prevent anything coming in that way. So we've got all our units moving around there that need to be. These guys, we're going to have them all move up as well. Oh, that's my Marine headquarter unit there. Yeah, and then these guys will all get attached to that guy as well. I'll be making Marine headquarter units through research. They are where are they at? Command here. In fact, I can start researching it now. Not going to go ahead and select it at this point in time. Just kind of wait a little bit, but that'll be one of the first things that I will go ahead and start researching, along with other tech here that I definitely need. I also like to research Air Force and Naval headquarter units just because they provide that additional organizational bonus, but also they provide me the leader units, the headquarter units, so they can provide a little bit of extra support to my appropriate units there that they're going to be commanding. I've got a bunch of, as you can see, 30 units here that are going to be handling the westward expansion. I got 1, 2, 3. I need a few more units here, or a few more headquarter units. But he's got 6 on him. See, normally you can only have 5, but this guy's got 6. And that's because I believe started the game. Same with him; he's got 6, but that's cool. That's just the way it usually is. Way that the AI is able to do things there. These guys, we're going to have them too low, so we're actually not going to be worrying about there. We're going to be sending them up that way. Okay. Now at this point here, Oops. We're going to have him go there. Okay. And wait till I get a green. We're going to assign them to their closest appropriate unit for the command structure. That, no. So we actually have to create some unit, another headquarter unit here. That works. Offensive doctrine and logistic wizard. So that's good. We're not going to call this the second core, though. Let's call it the fourth cavalry corps. Okay. I think I've got a bunch of cav here. Well, and also light infantry, but that's fine. I'm just going to get assigned there. We don't have a unit there, so we got to create a new one. He's a good leader to have there too. And well, let's call it the second light infantry corps. Watch, I have mostly mostly cavalry units now that are waiting for a unit to get assigned to. Yep, as I thought. But that's all right. That's all right. And again, just to make sure I assign units, get them to a leader, so that way they can receive benefits and bonuses. And in fact, if we look at our planner here now, we're actually seeing fewer units that are straggling around there, which that's good. Still got a few more. And then I got a bunch of leader types. I need to create a couple of 4-star units here. So this one here, we're going to create a army headquarter unit. He's good, yep. And we're going to assign him to there. Okay. We're just going to go through all these guys here and assign them to that first army. Again, just for the command and control structure going on. No other real reason. Okay, we now need a second army. And we can open this up here. So there's a second army we can. Does he already have? No, he doesn't have. Oh, why can we not assign? There we go. Why can't the second light infantry be assigned? There we go. These garrison guys. So these guys actually, I'm just going to assign them directly to their closest. We'll kind of normally I try to follow the hierarchy when it comes to headquarter units. Go from 2-star division to 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, 6-star. But in some cases, like with these, with particular core headquarter units, they're simply there to provide command and control to garrison units. I'll just assign that, like this guy here, I'll just assign him to the closest next rank up. I'm not going to create a separate headquarter unit just for that garrison headquarter guy. And completing our, well, let's actually not assign him to that guy, but to there, Tokyo. Yep. We got a couple red lines there because these guys are way up in the middle of nowhere, but that's fortunately not much I can do about that. I guess, though, I could move him up And he should be get within range of this guy. I don't think I'll be able to get in range of that guy. But that's okay. Honestly, that does not matter overly much. They're providing some defense. So I need now a third army unit. Okay. Offensive doctrine, good. Alrighty. So we're starting to get our, you can see our getting our command structure in place here now. And yeah, there we are. And we shouldn't have too many units floating free. We got a few still, but we'll have that fixed pretty soon here. I'm going to finish out the rest of these here before calling it the end of an episode. And we'll move on further. You see, we didn't really play too much, but having to work with my hierarchy and setting up units and things like that does take a little bit of time. So I do apologize. Alrighty, and this guy will get associated to that. Okay, so now we have all of our headquarter units associated appropriately to where they need to be. These other units, they'll get sucked up by their appropriate core headquarter once everybody finishes moving around, which we'll do in the next episode. I do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to provide that, and I'll be happy to answer. But otherwise, you guys have a great day. See you next episode.